Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan, here at the Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com, where you can listen 24 hours a day. And today is a great day because we are going to be engaging with somebody who's been involved with adventure in Idaho for over 4 decades. We're talking to Kenneth Long, the manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak. Kenneth, welcome to the Great Idaho Show right here on 670 AM, 93.1 FM.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. It's really great to have you too. I'm excited to get into a story about y'all and what y'all have been doing here for, what did you say? Coming up on the 40th anniversary.
This is our 40th anniversary year. So we were founded in 1995, one of the first outfitters on the Payette River. And yeah, coming up on 40 years of rafting on the Payette River, kayaking, all of the fun.
You know, I'm going to explain some things to the listening audience here on 670 KBOI 93.1 FM, that this is a new show for y'all, the Great Idaho Show. And it's my perspective, a multi-generational Idahoan sharing what I think is great. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, in local news and radio, you hear everybody talking about the changes of Idaho. And, you know, are we going to be a bigger city or a wider network, and we're going to spread or do all this? But you've been experiencing this for over 40 years in the river itself. You've watched it from being the first outfitting group for the river to watching everything else happening. Like, how do you relate to that?
It's been a wild ride. I mean, the growth around is certainly been pretty dramatic. It is interesting because we are also a multi-generational family-owned and operated business. So my parents were involved and got started in the business in the early 90s. I have 2 brothers who also work in the business with us, and their wives as well. And then we've also got kids of our own, and they're also starting the guiding journey right now. So we have actively 3 generations that are working at Cascade Raft and Kayak almost every day.
And so this is important to me. And Kenneth, you've been so gracious to me to know that you're coming on to a new radio show. The KBOI listening audience is just hearing a lot of this and what we're talking about. One of the things that's important to me about being a title, The Great Idaho Show. Are you kidding me? We must be genuine, right? Let me remind our radio listeners, this is not a paid for interview, okay? I think that Cascade Raft and Kayak is very interesting for what Kenneth had just said. We're talking a multi-generational business participating in one of the greatest water resources in all of Idaho. If you're familiar with the Payette River network, it's very large, and it comes through a few different access points. And we have a family that has 3 different generations of family members participating in nothing but pure adventure. And that's what the Great Idaho Show is all about. Thank you, Kenneth, for your patience with us.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So let's describe the beginnings a little bit for us.
The early days, my dad was a regional restaurant manager all around the Northwest, and he had been a long time kayaker, really spent all of his weekends working on that. My mom was an early childhood educator. So as my brothers and I were coming of age, Dad wanted to take us out kayaking, and so he and Mom got together and really worked on some of the principles of how to teach young kids how to kayak. I mean, it just wasn't done at the time. There wasn't equipment made for them. The principles, how to do it, just wasn't done.
It was like a developing thing.
It was. We were the absolute guinea pigs for sort of youth learning how to kayak. So Dad had done that for a long time and kept his restaurant corporate job. And then as we were starting to get a little bit older, 13, 14 years old, it was like, you know what? We're going to spend more time and we're going to jump in all the way in and do this. So my dad partnered up with a guy named Steve Jones out of the area. And Steve Jones had founded the company in 1995. In the early 90s, 91, I believe.
And let me throw something in there. Yeah. That's Garden Valley, right?
Yes.
That's a different geological location, right? The South Fork of the Payette River.
Yes. So Dad partnered up with him in the 91, I believe. And then, maybe 5 or 6 years later, Jonesy had some other opportunities, so my folks took over the company completely at that point. And then, my brothers and I have come up through starting washing dishes and mowing the lawn, working our way through teaching kayaking, guiding rafts into the
scrub those boats.
Yep, scrub the boats, and now we're in the operations and the management of the company. And it's rinse and repeat with our kids right now. So some of them are 18 years old and can get their Idaho Guides license now. So they're actively guiding. And some are a bit younger, but are actively pursuing kayaking, learning the ropes, being ready as soon as they can get that Idaho Guides license. They'll be ready to be right out on the front lines and doing the guiding themselves.
So I love this story, and it's because I'm associated somehow, right? I'm associated where I grew up in Haley, Idaho, and you think of all of the Middle Fork trips of the salmon and all of the Salmon River rafting stuff. My whole family was doing that stuff with Triangle Sea rafting company, and lots of associated people. Many people in my life have been guides and such, and it's such a great grassroots story that now, it's so easy for others to forget or not even know that your long-term history here in Idaho. You guys have the most wonderful property. How long, if you were to leave right here, the KBOI studios, how far of a drive, how fast can you get there?
We always say inside of an hour with some of the construction. If you get lost in the construction, maybe an extra 10 or so minutes, but you could be to our main headquarters in an hour from right now. So you could be on the water rafting in 90 minutes, no problem.
Yeah, what else do you need to know? The Great Treasure Valley. There's a lot of people here.
And it's great, too, because the water flows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it doesn't get dark until 9 o'clock at night. So you can really access the river throughout the course of the day. Some river systems, they're reservoir controlled. Sure. They turn them off at night. But, you get off of work at 5, you can be on the water 6:30 and still get a good couple of hours on the river easily.
I mean, how many songs out there are written about the river? You guys are like an exemplary image of that.
It absolutely, and it's so close and so good that it's just an amazing opportunity for being out on the river.
Well, so this is a segment that we are talking about introducing you to Kenneth Long, letting our great KBOI listeners that Kenneth Long is the manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak. Look them up. This is a local adventure company within an hour's drive that you can go and participate in. Truthfully, one of Idaho's greatest bounties. Idaho has great fresh water, and you can adventure on it and be responsible and not be, polluting, if you say. There's nothing wrong with floating down a river, and Cascade Raft and Kayak is a great business for it, for sure. I'm going to set this up a little bit. We're going to do a couple more segments. Right now, we're talking to Kenneth Long, the manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak. And in the future, we're going to talk a little bit more about their business, the things that they offer, a little bit of adventure and storytelling in these future segments. So stay tuned. This is Dylan Stalker, the Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com. This is where a multi-generational Idahoan is just simply trying to invite people that are making huge impacts in Idaho for what I think Idaho is really recognized by, which is our wonderful natural resources. So I'm going to touch base on our sponsors a little bit. Our sponsors, Old Arms of Idaho. You can think about firearms in just guns, or you can think about the history business and the many curiosities and the relics of old guns, and also what they deal in is old military, Western, and collectibles. It's not just a gun store, it's a history store. Look them up, but come to this next segment, and we're going to talk to Kenneth Long, manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak, and a 30-year professional within being in Idaho rivers. We'll be right back. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan, trying to share everything that's great about Idaho from the way that I have experienced it, being somebody that's lived here a very long time and engaged with many things. What you're listening to is a conversation between myself and Kenneth Long, who is the manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak, somewhere about 45 minutes to an hour north of here on Highway 55. You're going to come to this wonderful facility up off to the left-hand side if you're heading north that looks like an adventure capital. If you like rivers and you like kayaking and you like some other adventures, we're going to speak to Kenneth in this here segment about those adventures and what we do here. So Kenneth, I don't know, describe what you guys are doing up there these days.
Okay, we do rafting, kayaking, and we do a high ropes and zip line trip. But we can start with the rafting. The Payette River is one of the most amazing stretches of river, really anywhere. And one of the unique factors of the Payette River is it has every class of whitewater in very short circumference. So you can go from like class 1 to just lazy river all the way up to class 5. I'm sure everybody's driven from McCall back down to Boise and driven along that North Fork of the Payette River.
Yeah,
that stretch of white steepness.
Yeah.
That's 15 miles of class 5 whitewater. It's one of the hardest continuous stretches of whitewater in the continental United States. Yeah. And it's really popular from kayakers all over the world. Kayakers will come to Idaho in the summer to have their hand at trying out that piece of whitewater, really honing in their skills and really pushing their levels. So having that class 5 stretch on one end and then the class 1 to 2 stretch on the other end and everything in between is really amazing. So in our rafting, we offer both half and full day trips. And in each one of those half and full day trips, we do a class 2-3 stretch and a class 3-4 stretch. So class 2-3 is great, fun, approachable whitewater. Really, everyone can enjoy that stretch of water. It's absolutely whitewater. You're absolutely paddling through rapids, but the rapids aren't overly long or intense or anything like that. So the odds of falling out or coming to an unexpected swim are really not very probable. But the rapids are fun, splashy. All of our trips are guided, so your guides will have you help paddle the raft through there. So our half-day stretch is the main Payette, and that just starts right at Banks there, the confluence of the North and South Forks of the Payette River.
And that's even a stretch there, too. That's like, I mean, you can't call that big water for river, but in Idaho where you're at, that's like big water.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got good volume. It runs, all year round, and it's a just under 8-mile stretch. So we actually float right back down to our main center there. So we just bust you up, get you in at Banks there, and you float right back down. 5 class 3 rapids, tons of class 2+ rapids throughout. There's calm places to jump out, have a swim. The nice part is once we get into the summertime too, that water is nice and warm. The water comes off of Lake Cascade up there.
It's been baking up.
It's been baking up there. So as it comes down, it's all super warm. And we do 5 launches a day. So we have a time frame that can really accommodate everybody. You're on the water about 2.5 hours.
Sure.
So it's a great, part of the day activity. And it's really an excellent opportunity to sort of experience rafting, see what it's like, enjoy it, just have a peaceful day out on the river. If you want to push it for a longer trip, we do the North Fork Cabarton. And that puts in at Cabarton Bridge, which is just downstream of the town of Cascade. Yeah. And it takes out at Cougar Mountain Lodge in Smith's Ferry. So that's a real unique stretch. There is a short stretch of the river that is right by the road, right there at the very end. But the river really bends away from the road, and it's into beautiful forest areas. So eagles,
you can see things that you wouldn't see if you were just driving that.
It's absolutely, it gets wilderness,
the road.
Gets wilderness very quickly. Yeah. So forested trees, everything like that. Same flavor of whitewater, that class 3 whitewater, some nice calm pools, places to jump out, swim, relax, but still some great rapids through there. In fact, you can see those as you drive along some of those last class 3 rapids, just as you leave that Smith's Ferry area right there. We stop for lunch. There's beaches all along the river, so the guides will make lunch for you. You get to stop, hang out by the river a little bit. And so, yeah, that takes a good part of the day. We meet for that one at 9 o'clock and usually back to our center somewhere around 4 o'clock in the day. Again, both of those class 3 stretches are really appropriate for everybody.
Yeah, right. You got a guide. I've done
Absolutely.
guided trips,
Yep.
right? And when you're doing a guided trip on the river, my experience, right? You've got somebody that's very enthusiastic about what we're doing. Oftentimes they're sharing you a history of the local area, what's happened here, what fire happened here, why this rock is in the river, maybe a car crash that happened back in the history, or things that have happened. So it's not even just necessarily just an adventure of the river itself. We're talking about an adventure of history, things that have happened along this stretch of river, right?
Right, absolutely.
Quite a bit of things
and it's really
happening.
handed down, sort of guide generation to guide generation as well. We typically get our guides, they sort of follow the college program of, get done with high school. They have summer jobs for 4 or 5 years, but there's a number of, ski professionals or river professionals that go year round. But those new
Sure.
guides are learning from the more senior guides, getting all of that information, sort of preserving that river lore and passing that down from guide to guide. And then they are absolutely completely engaged with everybody out there. I mean, they just love to share the river. They love to share the fun with everybody. So those guides really give a great perspective of, like you said, the history, what happened, what's cool about this beach, what's coming up around the corner, fun things to do and fun ways to get down the river. So
I think of I had a group of friends and I that used to do every year the last 75 miles of the Salmon before it confluences into the Snake. And that was just a trip. I think I'm on the right river system there.
Yep.
And I'm no professional with it comes to that. But I remember traveling through and seeing some old relics of history where there was, Chinese immigrants in encampments up off of that stuff. Are there some historical sites that we can see on that? And I dare ask that question if there isn't one, but I'm assuming there's some great history.
There certainly is, and a lot of the history on the Payette is either the logging history or the gold mining history. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
You can see a lot of the relics from the logging up towards Cascade and some of those splash dams and some of those things, and they're sort of signposted up there. Once you get onto our other stretches on the South Fork of the Payette River, that's where we do our Class 4 stretches.
Yeah.
That's where you really start to see some of the gold mining relics and things like that. So between Idaho City and Garden Valley is where a lot of that was happening. And, Garden Valley is producing with those hot springs and that warm water was producing a lot of the food and things like that, a lot of the growth for some of the mining camps up in Idaho City.
And that empowered them to go 24/7, 365. We got hot water in the wintertime. Let's mine for some gold.
Absolutely,
right?
yes. So, but yeah, up on that South Fork of the Payette River, we do the Class 4 whitewater. So that's going to be a lot more intense. That's a lot more adrenaline laced as far as that goes. So a little more stringent requirements for participants. You need to be at least 12 years old, good shape, ready to do some paddling.
Sure.
There's a chance that you fall out of the boat. I mean, it doesn't happen all of the time, but whitewater is certainly unpredictable. So you hit a rock, a wave, something you're not expected, you can go for a swim. But all of the guides, again, are well trained in all of those things. So our half-day stretch goes from Banks, is the takeout point, and it puts in downstream of Garden Valley. So if you're driving up towards the Garden Valley area, you can see some of those rapids. Some of the world-famous Staircase Rapid is one of the longest ones on there. It's like a quarter of a mile of Class 4 whitewater right there. So come summertime, there's a big turnout right there, and it'll be packed full of cars, and everybody's waiting for the rafters and the kayakers to come down.
And there's the people with their cameras and stuff.
Binoculars, the whole thing, but it's right there, and you can get a really good view. But that's super intense whitewater, super fun paddling. And, sort of a way to boost up the adrenaline level right there. So that's a great half day. Again, like 2.5 hours actually on the water. As you go further upstream, we do the full day canyon stretch, which is really one of the crown jewels of rafting stretches in the state. So it puts in at the confluence of the Deadwood River. There's a Deadwood campground, so it's just downstream of Lowman. And it takes out at Danskin Station, which is upstream of Garden Valley by about 6 miles. The canyon is super
Highway
deep.
21 and 17. And
yeah, The canyon is super deep down in there, so you can catch glimpses of the road if you look like straight up as you're rafting, but you're deep down in the canyon. It's all day, class 4 whitewater, a mandatory portage around Big Falls Rapids.
Okay, so you get to experience like, oh my goodness, my boat won't make it down the river. We need to carry this boat out of the water.
It drops about 80 feet in 3 tiers.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you paddle up right to the edge, you'll get out of the boat. The guides will rope it right to the lip of the edge of the drop there. Then everyone will carry it and we'll rope it another. But you're standing just right next to this most majestic, powerful piece of water that you can ever imagine. It's absolutely stunning. But through that course of the day, you get those class 4 rapids all day long. It's just absolutely spectacular. It is one of the best class 4 experiences that you can ever have.
So I live in Loman. I drive to Loman about 2 days a week. I drive that stretch that you talk about all the time. And you're looking from the road and there's something down there, right? And there's real, some of the most fresh natural water coming out of the Sawtooth Mountains, right? The headwaters are not really that far.
They're not.
And it picks up all of those steep canyons that you drive through and every little tributary that you possibly can imagine, feeding this water source that Kenneth is describing. This is Kenneth Long of Cascade Raft and Kayak that you're listening to, describing the services that they offer. Man, I mean, I've always wondered, like, I wanted to get out of the car and walk over there and look. I need to participate.
It just doesn't do it justice because you're so high up above as well. I mean, there's no change for actually being down in there.
It is something
unbelievable.
It is something you've really got to go see with your own eyes. So this is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan on the largest, most powerful, and greatest voice in radio for Idaho, 670 AM, 93.1 FM. You are hearing an interview between myself and Kenneth Long, the manager of operations for Cascade Raft and Kayak. Stay tuned for this next segment. We are going to talk some more about all of the adventures that they do at Cascade Raft and Kayak. Don't forget our sponsors, Old Arms of Idaho. They are in the history business, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't just about guns. This is about curios and relics. This is about history, Civil War, war items. If you have something that you think might be valuable in all of those subjects, give Old Arms of Idaho a call because they will take very good care of you. And we'll hear you on this next segment. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan, sharing with you all that is great about Idaho from my opinion, and it's only mine, but you should listen up because today we're speaking to Kenneth Long, again, of Cascade Raft and Kayak. Cascade Raft and Kayak, less than an hour's drive typically north of Boise on Highway 55, where you can connect to what people for decades and decades have been moving to Idaho to experience, where Idaho is known for mountains, fresh water, and just scenic views. And Cascade Raft and Kayak, I can tell you right now, you would not be remiss if you took a chance to participate. So, Kenneth, welcome back. I really appreciate your storytelling and adventure and those stretches of the Payette River. And I think the two different stretches, one coming out of McCall of the Payette Lake and then the South Fork of the Payette River, my favorite thing in the world, the fresh natural water coming out of the base of the Sawtooth and collecting up every little bit of water and turning into one of the greatest stretches of river in Idaho. That's where we were in this last segment. So what are some of the funnest experiences you've had, some great memories down that stretch?
I mean, just being on the water is the best memory every single day.
Absolutely, man.
It's so special to be down in there and just have the opportunity. But some of the really great memories that we have are just very sort of personal to the groups that we take down there. You know? You really get to connect with people. You get to connect with their energy, their wonderment, and it really makes it fresh for us as river guides every single day to sort of see it fresh in somebody else's eyes
Sure.
every single day. So I would say that really having that opportunity to bring those people down and like get that big-eyed view
Absolutely.
is really an amazing thing for us to go. Of course, there's different rapids the way we ran it, and one way it went great and one day maybe not so much, or one day it was higher, and those are all certainly like in your own personal river logbook and things like that. But really connecting with everybody and giving that opportunity to go, especially because we have, like I said earlier, so many different levels. You know, you don't have to be the adrenaline seeker, 22-year-old charging guy to go down there. You know,
Absolutely.
Some of our favorite memories are 3 or 4 generation family reunions on the main Payette, where great grandma and grandpa are in there, grandma and grandpa, mom, dad, and kids, and you get all of them down there, and you've got a 5-year-old kid on one side and a 88, 90-year-old person on the other side, and they all get to share that and go down the river together is really a special way to go down as well.
Man, I mean, that is like that's got to be the fuel for the general person that engages with your team. It's just seeing the smiles of these people. I mean, and we got people that could be coming from a state that is flat. I mean, they could be coming from Indiana and seeing, you know, this Idaho countryside that is depicted in movies.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it's great for us too, because we have the shorter trips. You know, I mean, Idaho is absolutely famous for some of the long multi-day trips, the salmons, the snakes, and things like that. But if you're coming from somewhere else and you don't really know that you want to spend 5 days on the river, you can still do a couple of hours and like sort it out and get, you know, dip your toe in the water and see how that's going to go, rather than signing up for a week. But typically I think that people get in there, get the experience, and then it's like, all right, great, now I want to do this again and again and again.
And they might level up and go do that one later, right?
Absolutely.
One,
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Idaho's got so many river miles. I mean, I don't know that there's any, I mean, maybe Alaska has a few more, but I don't know how you get to all
I
of
lived
them.
in Alaska for 2.5 years. I am not floating any one of those rivers in the summertime. I don't care. That is cold water, ladies and gentlemen. Not happening. But, you know, I think that for anybody that hasn't floated the river, you know, here at KBOI 670 AM, 93.1 FM, we have a lot of new listeners. We have a growing population, and they're looking and they're just, what do we do? And is there fear? I mean, honestly, there's nothing to be fearful of. And I point out some things that, you know, winter changes the river every single year, and we have runoffs and things that happen. And the beauty of participating with somebody like Cascade Raft and Kayak, you can go jump in your inflatable and go float any section of any river by yourself and maybe make it down like it was the river of no return or something. But Cascade Raft and Kayak, they make a point to note all of those dangers and know how to navigate them, right? Like you go through a huge spring process, right?
Guide training every year. So absolutely, guides will go through, you know, first aid classes, river rescue classes, and a lot of practice, you know, so that they're really honed in on where to go on the river,
Sure.
And making sure that they've got all those technical skills right there. And then they do it all summer long. So they get, you know, run after run after run. But yeah, absolutely, safety is a huge concern. You know, we provide personal flotation devices, helmets on that class 4 whitewater. We'll send a kayaker along on the class 4 stretches as a safety kayaker. So if you fall out and you get away from the boat,
like a forward observer kind of thing?
Yeah, or they can paddle up to you, offer you some extra flotation, help in any sort of swimming situations. But the guides will go through what to expect when you're in the boat, what to expect if you find yourself out of the boat. I mean, honestly, on almost every trip, particularly in the summer, you're out of the boat, mostly because it's on purpose. You're hot. You want to jump into the flat water.
Absolutely.
So you need to know how
point,
to...
right?
Exactly.
Like, all right.
It's like, I want to just get in the Barcalounger of the river and just sort of float for a little while.
In the flat water, you're just floating down.
They'll go through the proper swimming positions. They'll go through the proper adjustment of the equipment, how to get pulled in and out of the boat. So as you do that in the environment of this is fun and I just want to do it because I want to float along, you gain that experience for if you were to unintentionally get knocked out of the boat. But the guides will go through a thorough safety briefing before each trip, make sure that the gear is all properly adjusted, make sure that you know what to expect. And then we go through the practice paddling. I mean, it's a participatory sport, so everybody's got their paddles. The guides are there certainly to help steer the boat and help get it down, but everybody gets to participate, which is really fun about paddle rafting, is that you're an active contributor to getting the boat down. So we spend some time in the first part of the trip learning which paddle strokes, go forward, go backwards, how to turn the boats, when to stop, when to hang on to the boats, things like that. So we really try to make the environment very comfortable for you so that you are confident and feeling that you can really enjoy the experience and you're not, panicked about what's going to come around the next corner.
There's a word that I utterly love in business, and it is professionalism. And how do you describe that? And I think that you are very eloquently describing professionalism. This is a total life experience that you're about to go through.
Absolutely, and it is a great thing. I mean, it's great to have such enthusiastic guide staff and employees because, I mean, honestly, it's a wonderful job. I mean, you're out on the river, you're out there. So you start with that enthusiasm, but really honing your craft. And I mean, some of our guides have been doing this for, 15, 20 years.
Sure, absolutely.
Some are just getting started out, but go through the training. But everybody is really dedicated to the process of really being excellent at their job, whether it's guiding, kayaking, taking photos, making sandwiches.
Yeah, man.
It is a full circle that way.
If you haven't been in a river trip before that wasn't crafted by a bunch of meathead people that have no professional experience whatsoever, the Cascade Raft and Kayak crew is all about professionalism. And I know this because my family's participated in this. So it's not just I'm thinking of things to put on the radio. It's just that we've participated in this and had such a great experience. I don't know if people really realize what level of hustle that it takes to be a guide when it comes to the safety that you're talking about, when it comes to the food service. Do you guys do food service trips and things like that?
We provide lunch on all of the full day trips, but at the main headquarters there, we have a gift shop and cafe, so sandwiches and, not like a full sit down restaurant, but there's definitely food that's involved with that as well. And then we do catering for large groups. So if you were to bring your corporate groups out or some school groups, we do a barbecue meal, either a hamburger meal or a steak and chicken meal. So you can enjoy the riverside deck after you do your rafting for big events, family reunions, corporate events, school groups, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think what I'm maybe my mind is trying to highlight is that the amount of preparation to just go float a river is just not some little thing, if you're, it's quite an operation every day to make sure that we inspect the rafts and that they're all safe and that we have the gear and that there's the food. And then not only that, there's just the welcoming sense of, hey, we're about to go have a bunch of fun and you don't have to worry about all the stuff that you don't even know about. Let's go have some fun.
Absolutely. I mean, taking care of the logistics certainly helps a lot without trying to rent boats or things like that. Now, certainly there's a very vibrant crew of Idahoans that have their own rafts and things like that are totally awesome at their job and things like that. But, they do it every single day, but on a much smaller scale. So to try to, gap that experience level and find your rafts and find a trailer and find a shuttle driver and things like that, we can take care of all of that. Just show up, get your stuff stowed in a locker, get your river clothes on, and get out there and enjoy the day is really the way that we like to present it for you.
You pointed out something when I've done some other trips. Sometimes you show up without the right stuff. And I'm assuming you're like, oh, you want a river shirt? Right? Like you have a good shop that you can get some of the gear that might be nice to have.
We do have some of that. So some of it's seasonal dependent. So we will start rafting in May and June, and sometimes that water can be a little bit colder. So we have wetsuits, river shoes, splash jackets, all the warm stuff, and that's just provided with our trip. So
Okay.
if it's at cold
Comes
any
with,
day,
yeah.
if you're like, I'm a little bit cold, or you're from Florida and it's only 85 degrees outside and you want to go rafting and you want a fully wetsuit up,
Yeah.
that's completely provided from that. Once we start to get into the summer months, late June, July, and August, that's not really a requirement or even necessary, but yeah, absolutely. Sun shirts, sun hats, things like that. I mean, sun protection becomes a major thing that you're going to want to take into consideration when you're out there, just because you are exposed to that. You can dip into the river and cool off, but you're definitely in that sun. So sun shirts, sun hats, things like that become very important.
Yeah, you know when you're going with professionals when they have it all covered. This is make an hour drive north. If you're from the Treasure Valley, and hopefully you're from, I don't know, Ontario, Oregon, or anywhere for that matter. I mean, it's very convenient right up there on Highway 55. You can't miss it. I'll tell you, if you're nervous to drive anywhere and you're like, I don't know if I'll find it, you will not miss it. It is right there. It's right there on the Payette River, Cascade Raft and Kayak. Again, we're speaking to Kenneth Long of Cascade Raft and Kayak. This is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan, just literally trying to share with you the great opportunities that we all here in not just the Treasure Valley, but all of Idaho and all the world for that matter, to come and participate and be a part of something that is great here in Idaho. And Kenneth Long, the manager of operations, their family, their multi-generational family that has been doing this. What did you say?
This
40
is
years.
40 years. 1985 was our first year on the Payette River, so this is our 40th year anniversary.
If you ask the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs, they were like, what was a great year that they never participated in? It was 1985. You guys have been doing it since 1985. I love it. This is Dylan Stalker, The Great Idaho Show, the Great Idaho Show.com, 24 hours a day, right here on KBOI 93.1 FM, 670 AM. Stay tuned for our last segment. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Dylan Stalker again, your host of The Great Idaho Show, on the biggest and greatest, most powerful voice of all the Treasure Valley, but way beyond that, thanks to the 50,000 watt signal that we have on 93.1 FM and 670 AM. We are today again in our final segment talking to Kenneth Long. Kenneth Long is the manager of operations for, I believe, one of Idaho's greatest river rafting companies, where you can participate less than an hour north here of Boise, Idaho. Kenneth, in this last segment, we always talk about just rafting, but you guys are more than about rafting. What else do you guys have happening?
Well, two of our favorite things, we do a full service kayak school, learn how to kayak. So once you get fired up about rafting and you really want to spend all of your time out on the river, kayaking is really the next step. So we have a group of kayak instructors that will take you from I've never been in a kayak before to I can make my way down the river. So it's fully instructional based, set in a way that builds comfortable with the river, getting in and out of the boats, all the way up to like how to really technically get the boat down the river. Our instructors are super excited about being there with you. And we are also extremely passionate about kayaking just on our own terms. So like all of our kayak instructors are some of the top kayakers from around the world, whether they are class 5 racers. Yeah. We have some of our instructors that are trying out for like Olympic positions for slalom kayaking, national teams and things like that. So not only do you get to go paddling with some of the best, but they're also really amazing at teaching you how to kayak. Payette River's a great place to learn how to kayak because you have those class 1 and 2 stretches where you can figure out how to get down the river in sort of a low stakes environment where you're not like banging through like big warming waves up and holes and things like that. You can really get the base of the technical skill, the balance of the boat, figure out how and why you want to steer the boat this way or move the boat that way before you apply some of the bigger rapids. So you have really a nice stair-step progression from basic calm water, then add a few waves, and then add a few more waves, and then add some bigger waves and things like that. So all of the stretches that we talked about that are rafting are used by kayakers every single day as well. So I would say that as far as sort of the center of people using the river sort of on their own would be kayaking. So if you get the river bug, many people progress to the next step of learning how to kayak and going there.
And you've got, in equipment wise, you could be in a smaller car, able to throw your boat right up on top with your own human power.
Yep.
Get to the spot on the river that you want to participate in. You don't need a team of cooler oars and all the stuff. You're just popping in that Payette River.
Yeah, and we definitely liken kayaking sort of to golfing in the sense that you could probably go and do it on your own, but you're going to spend like 3 or 4 years to try to figure out what we can teach you in like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh my goodness.
So you can...
and you're like, don't do this right here and you'll be fine.
Exactly. You're like, I've been doing this so badly for so long, I just can't figure it out. It's like, oh, well, you just need to do this one step or these 2 steps right there. So going into that instructional program is really great. And we've got instructors, like I said, they're world-class paddlers. So we can do just a half-day like private tune-up lesson for really skilled paddlers. But we do weekend classes where I've never kayaked before, and we'll like teach you how to sit in the boat, how all the equipment works, how if you dump the boat upside down, how to get in and out of it. And then, obviously try to progress beyond that so that you're not dumping out all of the time and you can actually paddle your way down the river.
So I'm going to, correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I do drive this stretch of road that you guys navigate every day in water. I'm driving the road sense, dodging the rocks and the trees and all the other stuff. But hasn't that intersection between the South Fork and the Payette River become like a world spot for kayaking?
Absolutely.
It is like world renowned.
Absolutely. Because in that spot, from every direction, there is whitewater.
Sure.
So, and different levels of whitewater. So like the Compass Rose, you go north, it's class 5. You go east, it's class 4. You go south, it's class 3. So pick your magic from that point on.
I'm going to throw out something that I wished a 15 to 18-year-old person would do. But man, if you're listening out there and you've got kids, if there was somebody who could legitimately start a business in Idaho, shuttling kayaks from one place to another and offering peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and protein shakes, man, there's a lot of people out there. But I have to tell you, Cascade Raft and Kayak, when it comes to knowing all the spots, understanding all of there's ethics, right? There's ways to participate and be involved with the people that are with you or not with you, right?
Like sure, there's definitely river culture and
river culture.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And we do kids programs as well. So we start kids as young as 8 years old. So specific to kids 8 to 12 and 13 to 17. So they're multi-day kids camp programs. So you can really learn how to kayak.
I mean, what a lifetime gift.
Right.
It doesn't matter where you were at in the world. There is some water running somewhere, somehow.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you could learn in any more, I don't know, a better place to highlight the beginner levels and the medium levels. And man, you're a real pro right here. Cascade Raft and Kayak is clearly expressing that they do that. What else would you like to share that you guys do?
We do a high ropes and zip line course that's right along the North Fork of the Payette River, just about 3 miles north of Banks right there along the North Fork. So it's in the trees right there. It is a 17-element closed circuit course. So the first half of it is tightrope walking, knocking logs, swinging steps, elements like that where you're finding yourself in a above the tree environment. So you get to deal with maybe that height nervousness, but also the physical element of crossing your way through some of those elements. We do that as a guided thing. And then the second half is zip lines. So you get to use all of the gravity and all of the fun things as far as that goes. So you get to really zip tree to tree and have a really good time that way. So that is a great thing to do if you don't want to get wet or you want to sort of challenge yourself a little bit in the physical thing. You know, you're climbing up and down and across and things like that. Also sort of a great team building. We do a lot of school groups. We do some corporate groups and things like that where you want to be in sort of that team building environment, it's a great way to spend the day right there, right along the river.
So talking about the fact that you guys are from beginning to end, from the single individual who would like to learn river or ropes or kayak to, like you said, giant corporate events and team building and things like that. When some inspiration and conversation comes to me, I was a U.S. military infantry soldier who had to rappel for my very first time. And I will never in my life forget the paralyzing fear that my body took over me when I had to do that lean back, and the accomplishment that it felt, where it was just like, okay, I'm leaning back, and then boom, everything's okay. And you're with professionals, and you have safety gear, and you have all this stuff. Like, it's an accomplishment.
Yes, you definitely have to learn to trust the equipment, trust the environment, and you definitely overcome some challenges and some fears for sure.
I mean, what a great opportunity. You think about these adventure places where they're 4 hours out in the middle of nowhere. This is less than an hour north of Boise, Idaho.
It's less than an hour north, but it gets rural really quickly. So it's not like we have the urban environment. We're definitely outside. It's trees, it's the wilderness, it's the forest. So you get the best of all of the worlds. You don't have to go that far, but you're not, rafting or kayaking through skyscrapers or through the urban area.
So we got about a minute and say 45 seconds left. What's coming up for you guys? You have got some stuff to share about, like, hey, check this out.
We're getting ready to go right now. We've got a great snowpack year, so the season's going to start really ramping up here pretty quickly. I know that a lot of the kayakers are getting anxious to get out there, so we'll start some rolling sessions at the pool at the YMCA here.
That's here in Boise, Idaho.
Starting in the early part of next month.
That's
so
fantastic.
We'll have some sessions there. You can check in on our website and find the details on that. But we're getting ready to go. So the weather gets nice, even in May and June. Like, the water levels will be great. The conditions will be perfect. We've got wetsuits, all the warm gear and everything like that. So don't postpone if you've got people in town or whatever, and they're not going to be here in quote unquote summer months. We're out there doing it, and it's totally fun. It's totally appropriate. So sun's shining. Let's get after it.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that you took an opportunity with me today. I'm new, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dylan Stalker, your 3.5 generation Idahoan, a multi-generation Idahoan that has just experienced this stuff that I'm sharing with you. The Payette River, Cascade Raft and Kayak. You can't go wrong. It is a quality professional experience, and this is something that I'm sharing with you out of my love for Idaho. There is no money traded here for this, ladies and gentlemen. It's because they are amazing. This is the Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com. If you missed this today, you can go listen to it 24 hours a day, thegreatidahoshow.com, KBOI 670 AM 93.1 FM.